Hi everybody, Neil here. Gonna do a mix for you. Was asked to do this a bunch of times. I just never got around to it. So why not now when we're all quarantined and having a great time in the house? So what I'm gonna do first, I'm going to do this as if it was a project sent to me the same way I always do things. So you can see that process. I will kind of talk about what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why I don't do some things, whatever I'm doing, etc. Obviously, I have no script here, so bear with me on that. But here we go. All right, so I need to close that. What I'm going to do first, I'm going to bring in some audio. The audio I'm bringing in, you can actually follow along with me. I'll put a link in the description for a free set of files that you can practice with. You can follow along. They are from the Cambridge music site, and the song is called Santa Fe. It's by a band called Fruition. So what I'm going to do first, by the way, this is in Pro Tools if you didn't know, I am going to take all these files, and I'm going to convert them all, probably, because they might not be in exactly what I want them to be. Actually, they are not. So I typically just stay in 441 unless I'm told not to, and we can get into that conversation at some other time, but I'm going to convert them all into here. We're going to click done. That's going to bring them all into 44.1 and into my folder, into my project. So here we go. While that is processing, I will tell you that the setup I'm using is a straight Pro Tools, not the HD accelerated, nothing like that. I am running an Apollo, new Apollo interface, and I'm running out of a Dangerous D-Box, and that's about it as far as the routing goes. I typically will print to a tape machine, although in this point in time, in this video, I won't do that. I'll just do this like a quick mix, like something just bonk right out the door, right? So we're back. Okay, so the list of tracks have been pulled in here, over here, and we are looking at a giant list of a mess, right? I always like this part of the process, but we're going to do some house cleaning right fast on where these tracks go. Some people will just leave them randomly, but I have never found that works out very well. So what I'm going to do real fast, I'm going to take the drum tracks and I'm going to start putting them at the top because that's where I like them. So I'm going to put a drum kick. Let's see if that's the kick in. Good. I need the kick out right there. Okay, let's find the snare top. I can actually just do it over here quicker. Snare bottom, move it over there. All right, now I want the rack tom. Next, I want the floor tom. I want the overheads, the room mics, the chamber. There's a chamber here, interesting. There's a bass, electric guitars, keys, vocals. That's actually usually how I keep them up. Now, if I switch over here into the mix view, everything's a big blue blob, and if we were to hit play right now, we would hear everything. I'll do that for you.
Hey, we're Fruition. This song's called Santa Fe, and we're live at Telefunken Studios. I kind of sound like I said Telefunken.
Right. We are hearing the beginning of somebody talking about their song. So, what I want to do first, I'm going to head over here. We'll listen. Groovy. All right. So what I need to do first of all, I need to set up a bus, an out, stereo bus. I need, also I'm going to set up a master fader. This way we have a mix bus. All of our audio is going to go through here. And I'm going to send all of these over to that mix bus right now. The reason I'm doing that, a couple reasons. I'm going to change the name of this to Nuzz. I'm going to change it to Nuzz. Mix bus. All right, so now I can actually control everything with this fader. Going up and down, right? Excellent. I'm also going to do a little bit more housekeeping. I'm going to take the drums, all of the drums, all the way over to, looks like about here, and we're going to make them purple. Sure. We're going to make the bass brown. Bass is brown in my world. In your world, it might be yellow. I don't know. If it's yellow, you're weird. But bass is dark. So anyway, electric guitar, let's make it something like a, wow. No, that looks like a bus. Okay, you see the problem that people have now? Keys, we can make those kind of a goldish color, sure. Why not orange? Sure. Okay, vocals. Vocals are gonna be another type of purple, maybe. Yeah, dark purple. Sure, why not? Okay, now this may not seem important, but it kind of is. So I actually can see all the parts that go together and why, and as they're feeding the mix bus. Also, when I move over to the main page here, I can quickly kind of go through what's going on, right? Make sense? Sure. Okay. Now, next part. I'm going to take all of these drums. I want to actually, before I do that, I'm going to listen to all of these. I'm going to group these, and I'm going to call them all tracks right fast because I want to get rid of that talking at the beginning. The way I'm going to do that, I'm going to find it. I think it's right here.
Hey, this is Fruition.
Yeah. Okay, and now, okay, there's some drum stuff here. Let me look at this. Overhead track. I'm going to zoom in here. I'm going to get right behind that click. Yeah, there's a guitar that comes in, right? Yes, there is. So right about there. Right. I'm going to break this, and we're going to go back to a regular kind of size. I'm going to get rid of that. Move this over a little bit. Give it a little bit of breathing room at the beginning. Excellent. I'm going to zoom in again and put a little bit of a fade on there so that when it comes in, we don't get any weird popping or anything, right? Actually, I may have gone too far in on that. Let me find the guitar. I did. Totally did. Okay. Let's not take away the guitar. Excellent. Back in here. All right. I'm going to assume a few things about your knowledge of mixing first. But I will go into these in a little detail as well. But one of the first things I'm not going to go through in this process is just, how to import files and stuff like that. I'm just going to start mixing and talk about why I'm doing things. Cool? You got questions? You can ask away. I'll answer. All right. So let's take a look now. I'm going to get rid of this group because, well, I'll leave it. I might use it some more. But I'm going to undo it. I'm going to take this group. We're going to make a new group. By the way, that's Command G in Pro Tools. We're going to call it drums. The reason I'm going to do that is so that I can listen to just the drums. Okay. Now, this is a live recording. So this was recorded at Telefunken Studios. And a live recording is pretty cool because everything is, live, obviously. So that causes a couple of challenges, though. One of them is that we don't know exactly how it was set up, how the drums were set up, who put the mics up. I'm assuming it's somebody who knew what they were doing, but a lot of times you get mixes where people just put mics anywhere. So we need to check a lot of things here. Because this is live, it's not processed, there's no electronic drum parts or anything. We need to check phase, because that's where I find a lot of people are missing things, especially in smaller studios. They don't check the phase. That's one of the first things we need to do, especially on drums. So what I'm going to do, I am going to unsolo these drums, and I'm going to check phase with the overheads first, because I feel like, just from the small amount of music I've listened to here, that the overheads are going to be a lot of the sound. So before I do that, let's take a listen to a little bit farther in here. Getting a bit of a rough mix going here to bring down a couple elements. Get it? Sounds good. All right. Cool. All right, so it's my first time listening through that. It's pretty neat. All right, one thing I noticed here at the end, we have probably some people talking.
Yeah, neat. Cool.
Yeah, right on, man. Cool. That was great. Let's never break up. Okay, so let me scoot over here towards the end. I'm gonna grab all of these tracks, somewhere right around in there. And I'm going to break those, get rid of that. I'm going to pull that in. I'm going to get rid of this group so that I can edit something here that I see on the keys. Looks like something going on. Yeah, okay. We don't need it, whatever it is. Goodbye. Okay, back to the top. Medium size is where I like to go most of the time. Now back to the drums, because I want to check a few things here. It feels like to me that the overheads are going to be the main sound that we need. This looks like the overheads here. Is it the overheads? Yes. we can hear some of the bleed coming through those overheads from the vocals and stuff. But okay, so phase. We need to talk about phase because these drums, they sound pretty good, and it sounds like somebody recorded them knowing what they're doing, but that can change as we move around with some stuff. So I'm going to listen to the kick drum in and the overhead at the same time. Excellent. Okay. Now I'm going to take, there's a ton of tools like this. I think the gain plugin in Logic is the main one. Actually, that is the one I use in Logic. I'm sure Studio One has something like this where we have something where we can change the phase of a track. And on this one, I'm going to change the phase of the kick while I'm listening to it in relationship to the overheads. Okay, they sound in phase to me. Yeah. Obviously, there's distance between the overhead mics and the sound that is hitting the kick drum. So, but they sound in phase. Let me check now that if that sounds good, then I'm going to check both the kick drums. Yeah, okay, those are in phase. You can kind of tell. The best way to do it probably is by ear, even though there are tons of different tools to do this with. A quick way is with using auto align, which I tend to do as well, but sometimes you got to be careful with that because it's changing the shape of the sound in the whole spectrum. So for instance, let me go back over here a second. I'm going to grab this paintbrush. That'll work. Sure. Don't check. New document. Sure. Okay. So, phase. Let's talk about that a second. I have two sets of sounds. Let's say I have one sound that is a kick drum that is mic'd inside the kick drum, and it's making a sound wave like this, right? Now, if I have a kick drum mic on the outside, it should pretty much line up with the sound because it's pretty much the sound of it, right? So if I take this little guy, I move it. Ooh, let me put him back there. I'm going to copy him. Copy. Let's say that we now have two of them. Yay! So this would be up here. This would be the inside mic. This would be the outside mic. Excellent. That in theory should line up like that. They should be the same sound, but they're really not. There are a lot of different frequencies. That's why they sound different when they're outside and inside. However, if we have something that is, let me do this. We'll move him around. Yeah. Okay. So let's say that this is moved a little bit over. Say that the microphone is placed a little bit farther away outside than it is inside. So we'll get the same sound, right? Same sound that are kind of lined up with each other, but they're a little bit off, right? And what that does is it kind of causes a cancellation of sound. So it makes it sound pretty thin. That's a super oversimplified explanation of this, but this is essentially what's happening. So there are tools we can use that can measure these, right? And they're really great tools. I might use one here in a second, but one of the best tools is your ear. You can just listen to the sound. Now you can see this is the top of the wave here, right? And if the top of the wave is doing this at the same time the other one's doing the low part, they cancel each other out and it makes a sound, yeah, this is not great. You will notice the difference with the two if they are in phase. you'll get a really full sound, full spectrum of sound. And anytime we have two mics on the same source, we have to check this, right? So it's just one of those things we got to do. And when we're sent music, we have to check this too. And that's what I was doing there. So let me do this another way. I'll show you another way of doing this. I can use Auto Align, which is a great plugin from SoundRadix. Auto Align, I'm going to say on the overhead track, let's solo that. I'm going to send this on one channel, okay? Now, I'm going to check the phase of that kick drum on another instance of Auto Align. I'll put this over here. I'm going to receive the sound over here. So what we have the overhead track. We are sending it out a channel 1. That channel is going to be received on here on channel 1 on the kick drum, and it's going to listen to the kick drum and measure if it's in phase and how far away the timing is. So this is kind of cool. Check it out. I'll hit play, we'll detect. Great. So now we have negative 12 samples. It's in phase. 12 samples is not a lot of time, right? So I'm just going to leave that. I'm just going to leave that right where it is because it's now lined up in time. It sounds great. Good. We're going to do the same thing on, sorry if there's a fan going on and you hear it. I'm going to do the same thing on, nope, not that. We're going to do the same thing. Auto Align. We're going to, this time though, I want to align this kick drum with the one that I know is already aligned with the overhead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bass drum that's already aligned. I'm going to send it out on channel 2. We're going to receive this on channel 2. Detect this polarity, and we're going to listen to both of them. Yeah, that's a pretty big difference on that. I would actually use this on that. Sometimes I don't like to do it if they're not, if they're going to change the samples timing wise over too much. But this sounds great. Play this with it off. Now on. Big difference. Yeah. An excellent tool. So now, kicks and overheads are in line. That already sounds fantastic. Okay, so now I'm going to take the snares. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to take this top snare. I'm going to align it to the overhead. I'm going to do that by opening Auto Align on the snare top. We're going to receive it on 1 because that's where the overhead's coming out. We're going to detect the delay and polarity. Cool. That sounds great. Although, if you notice, this is saying that the samples are, it's time aligning it, although we're going to get some sort of different picture of the drum set if we go this far. So what I tend to do is if I'm going over 100 or so samples, I will tend to nudge this back towards 0 samples and see what it sounds like. Okay, let's go about, if you notice this polarity is switching each time, that's correct. So we're 20, 16, 15, 14, 12, 8, it's pretty close. So you can tell it's in phase. Let's listen to it. Yeah, I prefer this. Okay, so it's moved it a little bit more to be in line with it, and the polarity is fine. So I'm now going to unsolo that. I'm going to listen to the other snare drum, the bottom snare, which is usually my favorite, my least favorite, sorry, sound on the planet, the bottom of a snare drum. Ugh, okay, leave that there. Here we go. We're going to move this over here. This is the snare that is now aligned to the overhead. So this alignment, I'm going to send out channel 3. Now I'm going to receive on channel 3 for the other snare. Okay, so we're going to detect delay and polarity. Interesting. Okay, let me play with this a minute because that sounds interesting. So let me play it again. I'm gonna move this. No. Let's see here. Let me take this out. I'm gonna try that again. I'm not digging what I'm hearing on this. So. Yeah, okay. Here's one of those weird things that happens. I'm not digging what I'm hearing on this, so I'm not going to use it. I'm sure the math is great. I'm sure it's working out just fine in the plugin, but I think it sounds better without it. I think it sounds fuller if you want to hear it again. Here we go. Make active. On is here. Off. Well, actually, it does sound kind of a hollower thing happening. So let me just grab a section. Yep, sounds better off. So I'm going to leave it off. Good. Most of the time I don't worry too much about rack toms, but this time I will. I will check it out. I will put in an auto align on here. We're going to listen to overheads. Oops. No. 0. I'm going to receive on 1 because that's what my overhead is sending out from. Delay. Let's listen to that. Good. Again, I'm going to move this back a ways because I don't want to mess with too much of the... it's out of phase that close. -3 out of phase. Okay, so... I like it. Okay, I want to leave that. Next, the floor tom. What am I doing? Okay, here we go. Floor tom. Receive on 1. Same thing. I'm sending from the overheads into the floor. I'm going to check that. Excellent. Oh, I really like it. Cool. Let's put it closer so we're not messing with the overall picture. That. Let me see where we are on the floor, Tom. We're about at 7 samples. Okay, so we're kind of close. This plugin is really helpful, although it's probably quicker to just use your ear, to test if things are in and out of phase. Although this is a little bit heavier, a little bit wonkier. You can get your brain in on it some. So now we have the drums and the kick drums, snare drums, rack tom, floor tom, and overhead should be in phase. Let's take a listen to them. Oops. I hate that. Okay, there we go. Okay, just doing a quick little adjustment here. I want to listen now to the overheads because I need to figure out what perspective we're in here. So, yeah, okay, so this is audience perspective. You can hear the drums on the snare is kind of on the right. The hi-hat's way over on the right, so that's what I'm going to consider audience perspective. So that means that my rack tom, I'm going to pull it over there a little bit and this over here, and we'll see how that falls into place. Get over here where we can hear those being played. Yeah, good. Okay, good. I'm happy with that. Now I want to undo that. I'm going to listen to the overheads and the room. Now I could use the audio line to do this as well, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a little bit quicker version of this. I'm going to use the trim plugin and just listen to the phase out and back. Okay, that sounded terrible. So it is in phase with itself. Good job, whoever recorded this. Excellent. The chamber, not even going to worry about. That's a totally different thing. I'm going to take that down. Now I'm going to listen to just the drums. Good. Kick drum's kind of heavy, so I'm gonna pull it down. I tend to prefer the inside of a drum sometimes, so. Okay, good. Next up, I'm going to do some gain staging. But before we do any of that, I'm going to bounce, or what we call commit up to this insert on all of those auto aligns. Good. Next up, we'll do the gain structure of this, and then we'll get moving on the rest of it. Thanks so much. Hope everybody's doing well. Talk to you later.